بروکسل-کنفرانس در پارلمان اروپا. ایران، چشمانداز تغییر و سیاست اتحادیه اروپا با حضور دهها نماینده و حمایت از شورای ملی مقاومت و طرح 10 ماده‌ای خانم رجوی برای آینده ایران. سوم خرداد 1402.
چه سالها ز باغ ما جوان کشته ای، ستاره های شهر را شبانه کشته ای، چقدر از تبار ما ترانه کشته ای، قسم به داغ لال غرق خون کنم تو را، ارائه کرده ام که سر بگون کنم تو را، ز خاک هند و روشنی برون کنم تو را.
freedom with Maryam Rajavi. ایران آمباساد ترور سنتراله. ایران آمباساد ترور سنتراله. آزادی میآید با بی‌توان و باید. آزادی میآید با بی‌توان و باید. شورشی جنگاور حاضر حاضر تا آخر. شورشی جنگاور حاضر حاضر تا آخر. 1402 پس میگیریم ایرانو. 1402 پس میگیریم ایرانو. آزادی میآید با بی‌توان و باید. آزادی میآید با بی‌توان و باید. دموکراسی آزادی با مریم رجوی. دموکراسی آزادی با مریم رجوی. شورشی جنگاور حاضر حاضر تا آخر. شورشی جنگاور حاضر حاضر تا آخر. مرگ بر ستمگر چه شاه باشه چه رهبر. مرگ بر ستمگر چه شاه باشه چه رهبر. شیر همیشه بیدار خدا تو را نگهدار. شیر همیشه بیدار خدا تو را نگهدار. خلق جهان بداند مسعود رهبر ماست. خلق جهان بداند مسعود رهبر ماست. مرگ بر ستمگر چه شاه باشه چه رهبر. دموکراسی آزادی با مریم رجوی. دموکراسی آزادی با مریم رجوی. آزادی میآید با بی‌توان و باید. آزادی میآید با بی‌توان و باید. آزادی میآید با بی‌توان و باید. آزادی میآید با بی‌توان و باید.
بر نمیگردیم به خونه قدرت ما جمعمونه. دخترای شیر ایران لیدرای این زمونه. بر نمیگردیم به خونه گزمه های شب چشونه. خستشون کردیم تموما اسم ما کابوسشونه.
مریم مهرتابان میبریمش به ایران. مریم مهرتابان میبریمش به ایران. شورشی جنگاور حاضر حاضر تا آخر. شورشی جنگاور حاضر حاضر تا آخر. مرگ بر ستمگر چه شاه باشه چه رهبر. مرگ بر ستمگر چه شاه باشه چه رهبر.
قسمت دوم، سخنرانی‌های نمایندگان پارلمان اروپا.
فوتیگا، وزیر خارجه لهستان 2007، عضو کمیسیون خارجی پارلمان اروپا. استانیسلاو پولچاک، نماینده پارلمان اروپا.
ایوان استفانتس، نماینده پارلمان اروپا.
ریچارد چارنسکی، وزیر پیشین امور اروپایی لهستان، عضو کنفرانس رؤسای هیئت‌های پارلمان اروپا، نایب رئیس پارلمان اروپا 2018، نایب رئیس کمیته دادخواست‌ها.
یان زهرادیل، معاون کمیسیون تجارت بین المللی. جیانا گانچا، نماینده پارلمان اروپا. خوزه مانوئل فرناندز، عضو کنفرانس رؤسای هیئت‌ها در پارلمان اروپا.
فوتیگا. خانم مریم رجوی، گوش دادن به شما بسیار آموزنده و الهام بخش است. من تمام گفته‌های همکارانم را تایید می‌کنم که از عزم، ثبات و استحکام شما در پایداری در کنار مردم ایران تمجید می‌کنند. چشمانداز دولت آزاد، دمکراتیک با جدایی دین از دولت که شما همین چند لحظه پیش به پارلمان اروپا ارائه کردید، رؤیای دیرینه مردم ایران را محقق می‌کند.
Dear Madam Mariam Rajavi, it is good to see you here in the European Parliament, and it is extremely instructive and inspiring to listen to you. Of course, I echo all statements of my colleagues praising your resolve, consistency, and your firm staying with Iranian people. But allow me to comment on what I just heard. I think that the vision of the free, democratic, secular Iranian state that you presented just a few moments ago to the European Parliament is a long-standing dream of Iranian people, of young people in particular, of families of those who perished in 1988. But of all who used to protest throughout all these years. We speak about current revolution. Current, I mean, what we observe since 2022, but certainly it is already decades of atrocities that we monitor. That is why we voted here in the European Parliament with vast majority votes the amendment to sanction the Revolutionary Guard, knowing the legal intricacies of this measure and difficulty, but we are aware quite well of wrongdoings and crimes perpetrated in Iran, inside Iran, and outside. And outside, I mean broader than in the broad region, although meddling in the region is well known. Quite recently, all atrocities. So I urge international community to prolong these sanctions. We have, when we wish to engage in economic terms, trade terms with Iran, we have to know that roughly 80% of Iranian business is under control of the Revolutionary Guard. And that means aligning with organization, institution that is responsible for killing numerous people in Iran and outside. Long live free Iran.
Thank you.
استانیسلاو پولچاک طرح 10 ماده‌ای خانم رجوی که توسط بسیاری از نمایندگان پارلمان و اعضای کنگره ایالات متحده حمایت می شود، خواستار یک جمهوری با جدایی دین از دولت و لغو مجازات اعدام است.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in this important meeting, and we are delighted to have the opportunity to listen to Madam Rajavi, chairwoman of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. Madam Rajavi, it is a pleasure to see you here again. For many years, we have been supporting your movement for its democratic character and for the 10-point plan of Free Iran. And what is important, the PMOI has an organization and network inside Iran. Even the Iranian regime has admitted that the PMOI resistance forces played a large role during the protests and uprising that began last September. The PMOI is a nationwide movement that has paid a high price. in the fight against Islamic fundamentalism, or better said, against religious fascism. As a Muslim, Madame Rajvi was a strong advocate for women's rights, including their right to choose their own clothes. Her 10-point plan, supported by many MEPs and members of the US Congress, calls for a secular republic and the abolition of the death penalty. Many of you know that Madame Rajvi's sister was killed by the Shah regime. Her second sister, pregnant at the time, was brutally tortured and executed by the regime, by this regime. Not to mention the thousands executed PMOI members during the 1988 massacres. So when we talk about paying the price, Madame Rajvi is a true example and icon. I should add that at this point, more than 3,600 PMOI activists and members have been arrested and disappeared after the nationwide protest began. This is of great concern to us. Members of her movement were the only active opposition to the regime and made many sacrifices in their personal life for their dreams of free Iran. That is why we respect them very much in the European Parliament. The situation in Iran has been the subject of a number of discussions in the European Parliament over the past year. I would like to say clearly that in the case of Iran, we in the European Parliament are for a democratic and secular republic. That is why we are holding this meeting today. Not only do we need to put pressure on this regime to stop executions and repressions, but we need to impose sanctions. Any soft policy of appeasement is counterproductive and will make the Iranian regime even more aggressive. In view of the warm welcome that the president of Iranian resistance has received today, I feel that we are moving in the right direction. Thank you.
ایوان استفانتس. من معتقدم بهترین سیاست در قبال ایران و موثرترین راه برای دادن پیام به آخوندها حمایت از قیام مردم ایران برای تغییر رژیم است. و به همین دلیل است که ما در این پارلمان از طرح 10 ماده‌ای خانم رجوی برای جمهوری دمکراتیک با جدایی دین از دولت حمایت کرده ایم.
Welcome, Madam Rajvi. Let me say at the beginning how glad I am again to see you in the European Parliament among us, among your friends here. And I'm absolutely sure that under your leadership, Iranian people are closer than ever to the freedom in Iran. And I think this is really a very important achievement. I'm in direct contact for many years with representatives of NCRI, and they inform me regularly about the situation in Iran and also, unfortunately, about many brutalities in your country. And we know, dear friends, that the Iranian resistance has faced a very brutal theocracy, and many protests in these years were brutally repressed. And sadly, many Western governments, because of their economic interests, have refused to take a hard line with Iran, closing their eyes to many human rights violations. But history teaches us when facing fascism, appeasement does not work and has a reverse effect. In Iran, we have a religious fascist regime which is against all the principles and values we have in Europe. Madame Rajvi has been saying for years that this regime cannot be reformed. It does not get along with nice language as long as this regime exists. The suppression and exportation of terrorism will continue. Looking at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the French Declaration of Citizens' Rights, and also in the Declaration of Independence of the United States and many democratic countries, we see that rebellion and resistance against the tyrannic regime is the right and duty of citizens. So let us send greetings to the resistance units who have risen up against the Iranian regime by any means possible. They risk their lives to bring democracy and people's rule to the people of Iran. The resistance units of PMOI have played a major role in spreading the uprising to all 31 provinces and to more than 280 cities. The regime has blamed that Madame Rajavi movement for organizing the protests and riots. So to conclude, I do believe the best policy towards Iran and the most effective way to give a message to the mullahs to take us more seriously is to support the uprising of the people of Iran for a regime change. And that is why in this parliament we have been supporting Madame Rajavi's 10-point plan for a democratic and secular republic. In this way, the people of Iran would feel that they are not alone in their fight, and you are not alone. We are together with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you indeed.
چارنسکی. من و بسیاری از همکارانم فراز و نشیب‌ها را تجربه کرده ایم و به این نتیجه رسیده ایم که این جنبش توانایی سرنگونی این رژیم را دارد و دارای یک بستر دموکراتیک است که در طرح خانم رجوی منعکس کننده توانایی بازسازی آینده ایران است.
Dear friends, friends of freedom. First, I would like to express my deep solidarity and admiration for the Iranian democratic opposition, NCRI, and especially you, Madam President, who is with us today. But I hope, I believe that your next visit here, you will be not as a leader of the opposition, but as the leader of Iran. For nearly 2 decades, since I was first elected to this parliament, I have been supporting the Iranian democratic movement. Me and many of my colleagues in this house have experienced this resistance in many, frankly speaking, up and also downs. And we have come to the conclusion that this movement has the ability to overthrow this regime and has a democratic platform that is in the plan Madame Rajavi's material is reflected and the ability to rebuild the future of Iran. This is a movement that has stood on its own feet in the true sense of the word and has been able to overcome all problems in connection with its own people. But frankly speaking, I'm not a diplomat. We have seen days when the appeasement policy of the European Union towards the Islamic Republic of Iran was at the peak and had resulted in blacklisting of MEK. And me, and together with my many friends in this parliament, fought a hard battle against the big EU governments to take them off the list. The Iranian resistance has managed not only to survive, but it has succeeded under the charismatic and the competent leadership of you, Madam President, to reorganize itself inside Iran. Thousands of resistance units of MEK have been formed inside Iran, who have played an important role in leading the nationwide protests that began last September. As representative of Poland here, Poland country which fought many years, many decades for freedom. I know, and we know, and feel what repression is, what dictatorship is, what appeasement is. This is why we are very disappointed that after we adopted a resolution in the European Parliament in January to backlist the Revolutionary Guards, the EU refused to do the same because of appeasement policy. It's the shame, really shame. The result of this policy is that the regime can stay longer in power. Friends, in Ukraine, we are facing Iranian regime there. We cannot ignore this and have business as usual with Iran. We must make sure that in the strongest ways we give this message to the mullahs that they are going to pay a really heavy price for participating in war against the people in Eastern Europe. Experience, I would like conclude now. Experience has shown that as long as this regime exists, that is both repression and warmongering and terrorism and efforts to obtain an atomic bomb. The correct policy is to support the Iranian people's resident movement and to overthrow this regime and establish a really democratic and non-nuclear Iran. Finally, I'll say, Madam President, one word only in your language. Azadi. Azadi. Azadi means freedom. God bless you.
یان زهرادیل، نماینده پارلمان اروپا از جمهوری چک. با توجه به تجربه‌ام میتوانم بگویم که مقاومت ایران تنها اپوزیسیون معتبر و سازمان یافته ترین اپوزیسیون در تبعید ایران است. ما باید از تغییر واقعی رژیم حمایت کنیم، نه جایگزینی رژیم آخوندها با سلطنت خودکامه. بازگشت به گذشته ممکن نیست و مردم ایران این را رد خواهند کرد. من به جنبش شما اعتماد دارم که اجازه نخواهید داد این اتفاق بیفتد.
Thank you, Madam Rajvi, for coming once again. It's great to see you again, and perhaps I should welcome you also in the name of all those MEPs who have been blacklisted by the regime, because we take it as a badge of honor, definitely. We are banned. There is another one sitting next to me, my colleague Herman Tej, and we are banned from traveling to Iran. But don't worry, we didn't plan to. We are planning to travel to Iran only when you are in power there again and when the mullah regime is overthrown. And because my political memory is quite long, I have entered this parliament almost 20 years ago. I have to say that I have been with the Iranian resistance since the very beginning. From my experience, I can say that this is the only credible, the best organized exile Iranian opposition by far. I feel the necessity to say that just now, because we have seen some people around here probably smelling the coffee, as we used to say, and because they feel that the fall of the regime is approaching, suddenly they started to try to portray themselves as a natural leaders of the opposition, which of course they are not, because we haven't heard about any of them until very recently, unlike about PMOI, which has been a very natural representative of the exile opposition since a very long time ago. And I think that the best proof of that, the best evidence of that is your 10-point program for Iran, which you presented some time ago, and I think that this is very eloquent and very comprehensive program for any future democratically elected government of Iran, and I hope that it will be widely followed by Iranian people. What we should support and what we have to support is a real transition of the regime, which means genuine democracy, not to support just a kind of cosmetic change or replacing the mullah regimes, the autocratic theocracy with autocratic monarchy. I don't think that the way to the past is possible. I believe that Iranian people would reject that, and I have every trust into your movement that you will not allow this to happen. There has been some talk, some remarks about EU economic interests, about trade and about things like that. Well, I think we should put geopolitical and geostrategic interests first, and we should admit that Iran, or rather the current Iranian regime, is a threat, a regional threat, a global threat, with its nuclear ambitions, with its interference into internal affairs in Iraq and Syria and Lebanon and Yemen and elsewhere. And I think that we all believe into a real democratic change in Iran under your leadership and under the leadership of your organization. So again, let me wish you all the best, and we would be happy to accept your invitation to Iran once it is free and democratic country. Thank you very much.
جیانا گانچا، نماینده پارلمان اروپا. خانم رجوی در این سالها به همه ما نشان داده است که بدون فداکاری و نثار همه چیز در راه عقیده و آرمان، دستیابی به آزادی و برابری سرابی بیش نیست و آنها در مقاومت ایران همین کار را از طریق وقف تمام زندگیشان انجام می‌دهند. ما در پارلمان اروپا با صدای بلند اعلام کنیم که با مردم ایران هستیم و تنها کسانی را حمایت می‌کنیم که علیه دیکتاتوری مبارزه می‌کنند و برای یک جمهوری دمکراتیک می‌جنگند. علیه هر نوعی از دیکتاتوری، چه از نوعی که در گذشته بوده و چه دیکتاتوری مذهبی کنونی.
Signora Presidente Rajavi, cari colleghi tutti, siamo davvero felici di ospitare nuovamente Madame Rajavi qui nel nostro Europarlamento. Ognuno di noi ha la propria storia di conoscenza e di collaborazione con Madame Rajavi e la Resistenza. E io ricordo che esattamente 10 anni fa, quando ero presidente della mia provincia, ho cercato di fare qualcosa per donne che erano appartenenti al movimento dei Mojahedin del popolo ed erano ad Ashraf e subivano torture. E grazie alla collaborazione tra la resistenza italiana, Madame Rajavi, il mio tramite e il governo italiano, siamo riusciti a far venire via queste donne che erano torturate ad Ashraf. Sono donne che sono prese da un regime misogino che da oltre 40 anni fa in modo che venga sacrificata la vita, la casa, la famiglia e i figli. In questi anni la signora Rajavi ha mostrato non solo alle donne e agli uomini dell'Iran, ma anche al mondo intero, a noi tutti, che senza sacrifici e senza dedicare tutto, proprio tutto, alla causa per raggiungere la libertà e l'uguaglianza. E questo, se non si dedica tutto, è veramente un miraggio. E quindi loro lo stanno facendo e stanno dedicando la vita intera per la causa, e di questo ringraziamo Madame Rajvi e tutti gli appartenenti alla resistenza iraniana. Io ringrazio la Resistenza e Madame Rajvi perché ha dato speranza alle unità di resistenza all'interno dell'Iran e ha impedito che il terrore e la brutalità dei mullah la allontanassero dalla scena della resistenza in ogni luogo dell'Iran. È curioso che in una situazione del genere, dopo 44 anni, ora che si è affacciata la prospettiva del rovesciamento del regime, il figlio del monarca, il dittatore, cacci dal popolo e abbia rivendicato la guida dell'opposizione. Nessuno prende sul serio questa, diciamo, volontà del dittatore e per questo ora tocca a noi annunciare a gran voce al Parlamento europeo qui che siamo con il popolo iraniano, che sosteniamo coloro che lottano contro la dittatura e combattono per una repubblica democratica. Ogni dittatura, sia del passato sia quella teocratica attuale. Secondo noi la piattaforma in 10 punti della signora Rajvi per il futuro dell'Iran libero e democratico include tutti i desideri di tutte le persone amanti della pace e della libertà. Chiunque creda nell'uguaglianza tra uomini e donne e in un Iran libero dovrebbe essere con lei, Madame Rajvi. Alla fine voglio ripetere questo bellissimo slogan che sento sempre dalla Presidente Rajvi: no all'hijab obbligatorio, no alla religione obbligatoria, no alla dittatura. Grazie.
خوزه مانوئل فرناندز، نماینده پارلمان اروپا از پرتغال. باید هر کاری میتوانیم انجام دهیم تا مردم ایران به آزادی برسند و به یک جمهوری که به زندگی مردم و حقوق بشر احترام میگذارد.
Je suis très content d'être avec les amis de la liberté, les amis des droits et des droits humains. Et merci, Madame Rajvi, pour votre courage et aussi votre compétence et votre résistance et résilience. Le peuple de l'Iran le mérite. Et bienvenue ici au Parlement, la maison de la démocratie, où vous avez le soutien aussi de ceux qui défendent les valeurs de la liberté, de la démocratie, des droits humains, du respect de la vie et de la dignité humaine. Et on voit qu'en Iran, ces valeurs ne sont pas respectées. On doit tout faire pour donner la liberté au peuple iranien. Une liberté avec un pouvoir démocratique, avec une république qui respecte la vie, qui respecte les droits humains. À Ashraf III, en Albanie, j'ai pu constater la force, la construction dans peu de temps dans un endroit qui mérite d'être visité. À Ashraf III, j'ai vu aussi le musée qui impressionne et qui impressionne les atrocités que le régime a commis. Mais j'ai vu aussi l'espoir. Et on voit l'espoir dans vos yeux et dans les yeux de la résistance. Je suis sûr qu'avec vous et avec tous ceux qui vous accompagnent, on aura tôt, et on le mérite, vous le méritez, et le peuple le mérite, un Iran démocratique, libre et qui respecte les droits humains et respecte la valeur de la dignité humaine. Merci.